You can hear babies?
All right, hey guys, welcome once again to the Chi-Town Fantasy Basketball Podcast. We are live, we are in Chi-Town, and we are podcasting, and we are talking about fantasy basketball, hence the name, Live Chi-Town Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Oh no, hold on, I got a thing going. Okay, never mind. I almost had a double going. Anyway, guys, how you doing this week? Joining us again are Daniel Favela,
Hey.
Nate, and Tommy. How you guys doing?
Solid.
Yeah, doing pretty
Excited?
good.
We got owned by like little kids in real basketball today. That was unfortunate. But
Oh yeah,
other
you
than
guys
that,
balled out today. How did that go?
uh, we won the first 3 games pretty solidly, and then like we kind of re-experienced our age, and we're run out. It was pretty rough. Yeah.
No more back-to-backs. Got to get on the pop schedule.
Yeah, you guys are getting up there. You guys are kind of past your peak.
That's
All
right.
right, well,
Brian Lynch would disagree.
okay. Well, we'll kick it around. We'll talk about some fantasy basketball topics for a little while, and then we'll talk about some more general NBA topics, and we'll have a good time. So let's get right into it. The first thing I wanted to talk about naturally are the most, the hot players and the cold players, because that's what basketball is all about, is who's hot and who's cold. So just real quick, we play in ESPN leagues. The 5 most added players in ESPN leagues over the past few days have been Kelly Olynyk, OJ Mayo, and then 3 Suns big guys. I don't know what's going on there. There must be something in the water, but it's Mirza Teletovic, Alex Len, and John Lure. So just player by player, we wanted to kind of break it down. So let me pull that up on the screen for you guys so we can all check it out. So first off, we have. Should we go high to low or low to high? Should we start with OJ Mayo at the bottom or
Yeah,
John
let's start
Lure
with
at
that.
the top? OJ Mayo. All right.
Yeah.
Where is he? So OJ Mayo. So there we have OJ Mayo's stats. You can see for the whole season he's only averaging 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.4 steals. Not super exciting. You look at the last 15. You see his minutes went up from 29 to almost 34. So that's pretty cool. He's averaging a few more points. Few more, just a slightly better across the board. Not super exciting, but the minutes have been pretty big. How do you guys feel about OJ Mayo? He's been pretty much in no man's land after being a pretty decent player a few years ago.
Nate, you could probably start it out. You're a big Milwaukee Bucks fan.
Oh, me? Yeah. I'm notorious for adding Milwaukee Bucks players to my roster, especially my last year's team, which is basically an entire team of waiver wire players and Kevin Durant. Yeah, OJ Mayo, he's every year he's actually on my watch list because he has these moments where he'll have a decent amount of points and chip in a little bit of everything. I think he'll always, he never quite gets past that edge, though, of being good enough at anything to be able to, be added in a lot of leagues. So I'm surprised that he's on the list right now. I think the bigger difference is in the past he has been this guy who's kind of chucked threes in the corner, but now he's also chipping in rebounds, assists, a decent amount of steals, and he's scoring in the double digits most games. So maybe addable, but I would prefer to add probably a young guard instead, who's not, whatever he. Well, how old is he?
I don't think he's that old. He was a rookie the same year as Derrick Rose, or around the same time.
Oh, wow.
So we could double check that, but he's probably 20.
He's 28.
28. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Nate. I'm not sold on OJ Mayo. If you think about why he's kind of resurged recently, and it's been because Jared Bayless is out. So I think Jared Bayless was getting a majority of the minutes early on, and that's why Mayo didn't see too much time. And with Bayless out, obviously Mayo got an uptick in productivity and usage. But just with that in mind, I mean, you got to think about it. When Bayless comes back, Mayo's value goes right back down. So maybe if you need him for a week, but I wouldn't pick him up because his value is coming right back down.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Jared Bayless is out right now, and who else is also out is actually Grievous Vasquez. So the Bucks are thinner than ever at the point guard position. But
Vasquez.
Grievous Vasquez. I mean, he's not the most awesome fantasy player, but I mean he is somebody who's going to play like 20 to 25 minutes a game when he's healthy, and that's going to eat up other people's fantasy value.
OJ Mayo, I like him. He's a good kid.
Tommy, we need somebody to say something good about OJ Mayo. It's going to fall to you.
Well, a couple of interesting things. I wanted him to be traded for, or I wanted him to be signed by the Bulls, because there was a time when, a couple years back, 1 or 2 years ago, when the Bulls really needed a two guard. He's a really good player. If you guys don't remember, he came out of the 2008 draft. He was the third pick after Derrick Rose, Michael Beasley, and it was OJ Mayo, and he was picked before Russell Westbrook. The guy had potential coming out of college. He was a good player. Everybody thought he was going to do things. You know, he spent like 5 years in Memphis, got traded to Dallas Mavericks. He was never a key part of a system. That's why I think he personally failed. I think he was never in a system where they could, I don't know, appreciate his talents or whatever it is. But then, you know, given the scenario, of course, you go to the Bucks to die, right? That's what everybody say. But he goes to the Bucks. One too many pieces in the Bucks, they can't even find playing time for him. Why he's a good player, he's like a third-string player. Right when your injuries are gone, he's right back in the bench, probably playing like 15 minutes. If you want a good, it might be good for a daily fantasy league, not even our weekly fantasy league. So let him go. He's not worth it.
All right, well there you have it, folks. OJ Mayo is not your man. At least not for a 10-team head-to-head league for the whole season. Maybe for the next week or two while the injuries are still in play there. Let's move it along to someone a little younger, hopefully a little more exciting, Kelly Olynyk. He's sitting at, speaking of minutes, he's sitting at only 18 minutes a game on the year, so that's really not super exciting when you look at it that way. But at the same time, in only 18 minutes a game, he's trying, man. He's trying to do his best. Let me just pull it up on the screen real quick. So yeah, Kelly Olynyk. In only 18 minutes a game, he's hitting 1.2 threes, which is a lot relative to how many minutes he's playing. He's also getting 1.1 steals and 0.7 blocks. You could imagine if he was getting 25 to 30 minutes a game, he'd be getting well over a block, well over a steal, and maybe pushing closer to 2 threes, which would be pretty exciting. And we have seen him in the last few games. He had kind of a stinker on Saturday, but the last 3 games before that, you're looking at 21, 3, 3, 2, and 2, 15, 4, 2, 1, and 1, and then the big double overtime game against the Golden State Warriors, he really lit it up in 37 minutes, 28, 6, 3, 3, and 1 with 3 3-pointers. So what do you guys think about Kelly Olynyk?
Well, as somebody who owns 2 players from the Celtics, I'm a little skeptical, especially with big men. I currently own Jared Sullinger, and he's having the same issue, minutes. Right now I'm looking at the Celtics roster, and we have Jared Sullinger, which is a big. Then you have Amir Johnson, David Lee, Kelly Olynyk, Tyler Zeller. I mean, you have quite a few bigs that kind of are going to be fighting for minutes. So, while it does sound tempting to go for Kelly Olynyk, at the end of the day, he's only going to be playing 20 minutes. Barring an injury to one of these other players, I see limited upside. I think what you've seen this season, I mean, he's going to have good stretches, he's going to have bad stretches, but at the end of the day, limited potential.
Yeah, I mean, I usually go by the 25-minute rule for a lot of players that I pick up. If getting around 25 minutes pretty consistently, it's hard to argue that you should be picked up. I really liked him last year. He was on a lot of rosters last year, too. Despite having the most ugly profile picture ever possible on RotoWorld, it was like a nightmare. So they touched him up a little bit, got some makeup. I like that he looks better. But yeah, until he's like getting around 25 minutes, I think it's a little too rough. I mean, Smokey read it already, but we have 25 minutes, 12 minutes, 27, 20, 37, 23, and before then he had 10. And so it's not even like within a 5-minute span that he's hovering around. I mean, the coach is just kind of chucking him in there. So yeah, I'd see a little more consistency first.
Yeah, that would be nice. And that one game where he did have the big minutes, the 37, that was in a double overtime game. And usually, if a game goes to double overtime, honestly, 37 minutes isn't even that many. I mean, Draymond Green, by the way, shout out to Draymond Green with the first 5x5 since 2012. He played 50 minutes that game. So honestly, 30 minutes, 37 minutes in a double overtime game isn't really that exciting. But I'll leave it to you again, Tommy, to maybe say something nice about Kelly Olynyk.
Interesting fact about Mr. Kelly Olynyk, you know his nickname is Sunshine. You guys know why that is?
I did not know that.
Well, his name is Sunshine due to the fact that he dominated the Summer League, not the regular season. So therefore, he is a quality player. Maybe not on the professional level, or at least on the regular season. He's good in summer leagues. Apparently, he can dominate pretty well. I like the guy. He's a good shooter. For a big guy, he can shoot. He's got some good post moves. He's got good IQ. But Brad Stevens, he's a great coach in Butler. He was fearless. He took over the Celtics system. He's not afraid to pull you if you suck. Let's just be honest. He will rotate through players until he is able to find the right combination. So Kelly's got an off game. Guess what? He's right back at the bench. He's going to be playing 12 minutes a game. Not good. Not worth the pickup. He's just going to fill up a roster spot. You might pick him up seeing he's got a 4-game week, hoping that he might average 15 points a game. Guess what? He's probably going to get 18 for 2 of them, probably 4 for their other 2, and you're screwed. So don't pick him up. Leave him.
All right, so Kelly Olynyk, Bum Hunter. Between the two of them, let's say, I think Boston has a 3-game week next week. Not sure about the Bucks. I can double check that right now.
4-game week.
The Bucks have a 4-game week. Let's just say they both had a 4-game week next week, and you had someone you were dropping. Let's say some poor sap like Mo Williams had like a season-ending injury, and you're obviously dropping him. Who would you rather pick up, OJ Mayo or Kelly Olynyk?
Team needs. They're both different players, so kind of just plug it in based on what you need, I guess.
Plug it in based on what you need. That's fair. I'd say Mayo seems to be getting the minutes right now, and Vasquez and Bayless are still hurt, so he's going to keep getting minutes. So he's probably safe for this week. If you really wanted to swing for a home run, like you didn't really need someone for this week, and you were hoping maybe Olynyk has more minutes later on in the year, I guess you'd maybe stash him now if you have room. But neither of them seem like very exciting plays at the moment. So
I think Olynyk has higher upside, and so for a long-term stash, he'd be more interesting. But for a quick plug-and-play, definitely OJ Mayo.
I'm going to go say an OJ Mayo because rumor has it Jason Kidd doesn't like Jerry Bayless too much. What? You didn't hear it from me. So he might be coming off the bench.
Yeah, I have heard that there was that one game where he was healthy and he didn't play any minutes after he'd been playing 30 consistently. Yeah, I don't remember why exactly that was. I don't know if he said something.
It was a disciplinary action because he was in my lineup. I don't know why he didn't play. He logged 0 minutes.
Yeah, so that's something else to keep an eye on in the Milwaukee situation. Maybe Mayo can keep getting minutes once Bayless gets back because they have beef. But let's talk about these last 3 players as a package because they all come from the same team. It's pretty weird that 3 players all from the same team are all the most picked up player in any time frame, but I guess the reason for that could be attributed to one person, and that's Markieff Morris. He has been the bum of the century so far this year. I drafted him last year, and he was a huge help. I picked him around like pick 90 or pick 93, something like that. He put up like 15 and 6 with a 3 and about 1.2 steals, which is not super sexy, but at pick 90, it's pretty good. This year, I mean, I'd have to pull it up, but he is just completely in the doghouse as Markieff Morris. He's going at where are his minutes? His minutes are down to 21.5 on the season, and he's healthy, He's not listed as day-to-day or out, but he hasn't played in 3 consecutive games. The last game he did play, he got 7 minutes. That's actually that Bulls game where we saw the Suns. So we have these 3 other guys, Teletovic, Lure, and Len, all picking up the slack. Of those 3, which do you guys think is the one to go for?
Oh baby, I love me some Teletubby. This guy, oh my gosh, he was blowing up on my team last year. I loved him. Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult now because this is kind of the era of stretch fours. It seems like everyone and their mom, if they can rebound now, decides they can shoot a 3-point shot too. But he's really cracking, and he's got 4 3-point games, multiple times shooting 4 3 points a game, and he was getting over 25 minutes for a consistent stretch. The one damper, of course, is that Tyson Chandler might be coming back or is back already. So his minutes are going to start to wane. But I think out of those 3 players, he could show the most for 20 minutes, even 22 minutes. And yeah, I love the man. Love him.
I don't think we'll hear a lot of love for Mirza Teletovic, but he does hit threes. That's mostly the only value he's going to have, but he's only averaging 18 minutes a game on the season, and it's averaging 2.3 threes in that amount of time. The minutes have been going up lately, and with it, the threes. He had 3 straight games where he did hit 4 3-pointers. He got blanked tonight, but he was 4 of 7 from the field, so not a complete waste. But any love for Alex Len, the large Latvian, or where's Alex Len from?
I have no idea, but that was the guy I was actually going to choose. I think, I don't know, I see a little more potential with him.
He's still Ukrainian, actually, but go ahead.
He's still young. Recently, I mean, blocks is one of the scarcest categories, so I think recently Len's been kind of getting some blocks. I think in the last 15 days, he's up to 1.6 blocks. As Nate mentioned, with Chandler coming back, that could hurt Len's minutes, but I'm not so sure. I think in the long run, Chandler's getting a little up there in age, and Len is relatively young, showing some potential. I think he could be a solid play. I mean, he's averaging, 12, 8 with 2 blocks over the last 15 days. Field goal of 54%. I think that's definitely some solid upside. That's what I would think.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing with Alex Len, tonight he was actually 8 of 8 from the free throw line, which is really great. The last 3 games he was 3 of 4, 5 of 8, and 6 of 11. So that's going to be an issue. But as long as Tyson Chandler is out or is limited, I would say Alex Len, if you can deal with his free throw percentage, he's someone you definitely want to take a look at because he's going to get you, like you said, the field goal percentage, the blocks, and the rebounds.
I had a chance to see Teletubby live twice.
him.
My God, I hate that guy. He lit it up in Chicago. Then I started watching the game in Phoenix against Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers. I was like, who is this guy that's shooting threes? This game barely just started. It was the first quarter, and I think it was like 3 or 4 from the three-point line, and the Suns were like leading by like 15 points. I was like, oh my goodness, I hate this man. Why is he doing so well? But then, I set aside my hate. I said, you know what, I'm going to look at fantasy value potential. So we're talking about the Suns. The other person that comes into my mind is Alex Len. I saw this guy up close. My God, Daniel, some of you guys are going to be, he is so freaking tall. Like, he is lengthy. Like, he doesn't need to dunk. He can just put it in. Put it in. But the thing is, for a guy that big, he should be feasting on boards, feasting on blocks. And every shot he gets in the paint, that should be 100% of a shot. The man has no post moves, though. He ain't got no post moves. He's a scrawny little, what did you say?
He's got small hands.
Scrawny Ukrainian guy with no post moves. I don't want to gamble on him. And, this is the day and age of small ball, and everybody's running. Phoenix Suns, everybody all the way to the 4th level runs like a freaking cheetah, for God's sake, except this guy who's like strutting with the long-ass legs, and it just looks really ugly. But nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and pass on Len. So, as much as I hate Teletubby, the guy shoots the ball pretty well. He's a pretty good free throw shooter, I believe. he doesn't really give you any other cats. So if you want to just get him for your 2 cats, which is going to be probably your field goal and your threes, and maybe he'll have like one of those 18-point games. It's probably one of the better pickups. And I also noticed Alex Len's been incredibly inconsistent. He's been on my watch list for a while. He just fluctuates up and down, and I don't want to deal with that headache.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's interesting that you guys went the ways you did. Tomi, the team he's playing in our 10-team league is a punt field goal team that's strong at 3-pointers, among other things. So Teletovic would be a good fit for him, whereas Danny, he's not really punting free throw, but it hasn't been a strength of his, whereas he's very good at blocks and rebounds, so maybe Len is a better fit for him. So in some sense, it might come down to just what you need there, but it might take a while for them to shake out their rotation, because I seriously doubt that Len, Lure, and Teletovic are going to be valuable.
They're almost the same size.
Not all super valuable at the same time. Are they? I feel like Len is like...
Len's taller, but this other guy is like maybe a couple inches shorter, but the exact same structure. I can rarely tell the difference when they're on the court. For God's
Lure's
sake.
Definitely pretty lanky too. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not a robust man.
What are we at a dog show examining animals? What is this like? Talk about some stats, homies.
I got to say, we'll wrap it up with Lure. There's not too much to be said about him, but he is getting minutes. He hits a few threes. His percentages are nice. In the last 15, since he's been getting 28-ish minutes, he's averaging 12 and 6 with about 2 assists, almost a block, not quite, almost a 3, not quite, 0.9 of each. But a really nice field goal, shooting 55% from the field. That's probably going to come down if he's going to keep jacking up threes, but we're probably a nice middle ground between Len and Teletovic, depending on what you need. Let's talk about some players who are not looking too hot. I went and searched out the 5 most frequently dropped players, and then I decided let's make that the 5 most frequently dropped players who are currently owned in our 10-team league. And so those are Evan Fournier, J.R. Smith, Rudy Gobert, Mason Plumlee, and Damari Carroll. I feel like Daniel felt very strongly about Rudy Gobert being dropped in ESPN league. I feel the same way, but I'll let Daniel address that subject right away.
I think this is complete nonsense. The other 4 players, Mason Plumlee, Fournier, Carroll, and J.R. Smith, are borderline owned players. I mean, Carroll probably owned solidly last year, but I mean, they're all like normally fringe players that have their moments. I mean, this season they've been doing pretty good. But Rudy Gobert, we're talking about someone that finished top 20 last year, I believe. He was, I think, around 20 in player rater, and that's despite he had the bad start. And he was a second-round pick this year. He got a slight injury. I think they're going to say probably a month. How in the world do you drop him? I mean, unless you're in a very shallow league, like maybe a 6-team league, I don't see how you would drop Rudy Gobert, especially if you're dealing with a league in which, like us, head-to-head with the playoffs, it's obviously most important to have somebody back for the playoffs. And the value he brings is just phenomenal. I just have no idea how you could drop him. If you have Rudy Gobert...
And to be fair, it's only in 6.7% of leagues that he's... or that's the change in percentage. So he's at 91% now. He must have been at like 97 or 98%. So it's not a huge drop off, but still, I mean, frankly, 1 is too many.
Yeah, you gotta stash him. This guy is top 25 for sure. So you need to stash him. I understand the other players. Fournier got off to a hot start. He's been sliding. J.R. Smith can be up or down every season. I feel like half the teams in our league pick him up at one point or another. Right. And Mason Plumlee, same thing, just up or down. Damari, I don't know too much about him. I've never owned him. I don't know how he's been doing with the Raptors. Maybe one of you guys can jump in on that.
Well, but before we just to pay off Rudy Gobert a little, the injury is a problem. As a Rudy Gobert owner, would you take given the injury situation, if you were offered a trade of Chris Bosh for Rudy Gobert, would you take that?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, I think that's more based on me because currently my team, I just lost this week, but I'm at 4-2, most likely going to make the playoffs. And just based on having, I would most likely just want to stick with the better player because once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. So I'm kind of looking more long term. I know he's probably still going to miss another 3 to 4 weeks, but once he gets fully healthy, I'm ready for him to start swatting some shots again.
All right, so we're preaching patience with Rudy Gobert. How about I'd like to talk about DeMarre Carroll. This is another player. It seems like the other players are mostly being dropped because they are stinking it up lately. But DeMarre Carroll of the 5 is the other player who seems to be getting dropped because he's hurt, and he's also stunk it up a bit. He's shooting at 38% for the year. That's a full 10% drop off. But the rest of his stats seem pretty much in line with last year. 12 points, 5 rebounds, almost 2 steals, almost 2 threes. Those are definitely things that are pretty valuable. And one thing that I thought was interesting, I noticed last year he was only attempting 9 shots a game. This year he's attempting 11.7 shots a game. So assuming the percentage got back to where it was, or not all the way back, but got up a little, and the attempts stay the same, then he's scoring more points for you, so that would be nice. However, we don't know how long he's going to be out. So Nate, Tommy, what do you think we should do with DeMarre Carroll?
I think you should hold him. I mean, in the past especially, he's shown that he can be a very versatile guard and forward. I actually I leaked him as a pickup last year to our friend Brian, and with him, actually, that was actually a big component of why he actually did so well. DeMarre, like, he can be a very reliable guy. I'm surprised he hasn't been playing as well with those percentages, but I think as Andrew said last time, percentages are the one thing that will eventually have the most likelihood of averaging out. So I think if he's taking more shots and his percentages get closer, he could just actually be a better player than last year. And he's a great plug-and-play, too. You can put him in a lot of different positions, and he can give you a nice jumble of categories. So,
Yeah, great point. Let's take a look at the waiver wire for a second, see if there's anybody we would want to drop for DeMarre Carroll. So I'll throw this to Tommy. Would you drop, let's say, and let's just don't know the injury, that's a factor. I think if 3 months, then we got to think about it, because he's no Rudy Gobert. So you have to factor that in. Let's say we know DeMarre's out for a month. Tommy, are you then picking up Al-Farouq Amino for DeMarre Carroll?
No, I'm not. Aminu, for one, I'm not really sold on the guy. The guy had better numbers when he was with the Pelicans this year. I thought he was going to have a great season. And I think a couple of people have picked him up this year with very disappointing results. I'm going to stick to DeMarre. I mean, he has played pretty consistently. Like you mentioned, his stats are pretty equivalent to where he was last year. And he's going to a Toronto team that's really trying to survive and make it to the playoffs, have a high seeding. They play good basketball now. Kyle Lowry's been a good point guard. DeMar DeRozan, they play team basketball. DeMarre Carroll has a starting role there, and he's probably a focal point of their defense. I think in the long runs, yes, his percentages might be a little bad, but he's a really good defensive player. So, if he's going to give you maybe 1 or 2 steals a night all day, or maybe even average to 1.2, 1.3 steals, that could be huge for your team. He is obviously not going to be one of your corner pieces of your squad, but he's a great role player. The role player that adds a lot of value. In our league, we pick up garbage often to fill one category desperately while shattering everything else. And honestly, I've done the same. But he's a guy that can kind of give you edge in quite a few categories, and I think that's invaluable. And I would love to keep him. And I wouldn't pick him up just for a weekly ad. I mean, I wouldn't drop him for just a weekly ad. It's not going to happen. I would stick with him.
Yeah, the 1.8 steals and the 1.8 threes in particular are pretty hard to find. I think if excluding point guards, you're not going to find that except for a player like Trevor Ariza, someone who's going to give you close to 2 steals and 2 threes. Can you guys think of any other players that are giving you that combo that aren't point guards? Like, obviously, Kyle Lowry, Steph Curry, that kind of player. But
Robert Covington.
Robert Covington. Oh, how could I
Avery
forget?
Bradley?
How could you forget?
Well, Avery Bradley's a point guard.
No, I thought he was a 2.
Wait,
I
yeah,
think
he's
I
technically
think
two guard, I
qualifies
think.
at both.
He's averaging 1 or 2 assists a game. That's not a point guard.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. He doesn't-
Daniel knows.
All right. Well, that's fair. Avery Bradley. Well, really, okay. So that's 2 players basically, besides Damari, who are close to that threshold, who aren't point guards. Is there any? I'm gonna just take a quick glance.
Why? Maybe. I'm sure.
Why? Yeah.
I think steals and threes is kind of common.
Yeah, his threes are there. He has at 1.8 threes. I think that's probably subject to change, but we'll see. I mean, he is definitely killing it. But we'll keep it going with some other. Who else did that leave? That left. How about Evan Fournier? What happened to this guy? Is this guy just getting skyled, or is he getting exposed as a bum? He started off the year pretty good. So on the year, he's averaging 15 points and hitting 2 threes a game in 32 minutes a game. Last 15 days, he's only averaging 9 points, hitting 1 3 a game, and only getting 24.7 minutes. So is this just Skiles jerking him around, or is Skiles jerking him around? What do we make of Evan Fournier?
I mean, it's always hard to say when you have a player that, I mean, I remember seeing him last year. He would have his hot streaks, but he was never consistent or never really put together a string of good performances. So when you saw that stretch at the beginning of the season, it was pretty difficult to realize whether that was actually him going forward, whether he was actually going to take his game to the next level, or whether he was going to dip off. So actually with him, I have a hard time. It looks like his minutes are slightly down, but I do not know whether that is just Skiles or whether he was just outplaying his potential. I'm having a hard time putting a read on this guy.
Yeah, I had him on my watch list for a while. I mean, there was just a lack of consistency. Like on the 14th, apparently he had what I was envisioning what could be a good pickup potential stat line. It was 18 points, a steal, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds on a 3. And that's kind of what I pictured him being when he was good and consistent. But he never really got to that point. I mean, he had these scattershot stats. And some of it was minutes, but honestly, even on days where he has the same minutes as the night prior, he would have completely different stats. It would be like you're looking at a completely different player. And yeah, I think when you're going for waiver wire picks, your impulse is to grab whoever's looking hot, but you got to wait those 3 to 5 games and see if it actually evens out and if it's consistent. And with Evan Fournier, definitely not.
Right. Yeah, that's about. Yeah, the thing is, he's a 3-point shooter, and 3-point shooters are probably the most prone to streaks, to like noticeable streaks of how well they play. Because if their shot falls, then it's like, oh, this guy hit 6 threes and he scored 23 points. And if it doesn't, it's like, oh, he hit 1 3 and he scored 3 points. That's a very volatile statistic, the 3-point percentage. Look at a guy like Mirza Teletovic. I don't think this guy's going to be a top 100 player the whole year, but he's certainly been a top, 50-ish player the last week or so. So that's the thing with Fournier. I think his shot was falling early in the year, and now it isn't so much. And it might fall a little more, but he's probably going to be a fringe player the rest of the way.
Well, my question is, did his stats drop after Scott Skiles decided to do this whole lineup change, or?
Well, it seems like it's been a function of the minutes. So he was getting big minutes earlier in the year, and now that part of it could be Victor Oladipo coming off the bench too. Now he's not getting as many minutes.
I think I remember in the month of like November, he was playing like phenomenal basketball, and he was like, "Oh my God, you gotta pick him up. He's hot. He's on a roll." And it wasn't like 1 or 2 games. It was like week after week. He was putting up some fantastic stats. And so, I mean, there was a point I was considering, "Oh my God, I might need to draft for. I might need to trade for him. This guy is valuable. He might be the Tobias Harris of last year for Orlando Magic, because they seem to go through people that likes to take on big time roles every year, but not be consistently good." And it's crazy. I believe at one point he was one of the highest percentages per percentages, the most picked up person in our fantasy league, among many other. And look what the hell happened to him. That's why you got to rely on solid players. These guys, I mean, they just put up sporadic numbers. They can't keep it up. They're not good. They're just average players. They're subpar players. It's just not good.
Yeah, I don't think he got drafted in a lot of leagues except for much deeper leagues. So yeah,
and our desperate league,
he was getting added. Final word on Evan Fournier. Are you guys gonna drop? If you had the decision to make, would you drop Evan Fournier for Mirza Teletovic?
Hell to the yeah.
They play different positions, but their main stat that they contribute to is 3-pointers. So that seems like a fair swap if that's something you want to do. But are Nate and I alone in that, or would you guys do the same thing?
Wait, what spot can he cover that Teletovic can't?
Forward? No, I'm saying they're both mainly 3-point shooters. I think Evan Fournier's game is a little more well-rounded when he's at his best, but of course he hasn't been.
Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, Fournier has the starting job, the minutes, for the most part, the minutes. I just think Teletovic is going to kind of drop off, especially with Chandler coming back. I mean, you're talking about 25 more minutes getting taken up, and probably 5 to 10 of those minutes might be from Teletovic.
Did I not have a childhood that I want Teletovic on my team? What is wrong? Of course I want Teletovic on my team.
All right.
I'll take his field goal and his threes, whatever.
Well, there you have it. All right. Well, so we're going to have one more little fun game of fantasy guessing before we kick it around the real NBA. So you guys, I sent you guys these two stat lines before. I'm just going to try to quickly, I'm just going to read it to you. It'll be easier that way. So player one is averaging 15.6 points, 5.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists, 0.9 steals, 1.2 blocks, shooting 42% from the field and 82% from the line on 4.3 attempts, and is hitting 0.9 threes. Got all that? That's player one. This is since November 25th, by the way. This isn't the whole season. Both of these players are just since November 25th. The other one is at 15.8 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.3 steals, 0.4 blocks, shooting 43% from the field and 80% from the line on 3 attempts, and is hitting 2 threes a game. Now, who's player one and who's player two?
Shoot.
That's a huge pool.
I'll give you another hint. Neither player has started in that period of time.
Oh, really?
I'm going to go on a wild guess and say one of them is Will Barton because he's on your team.
Well, which is which? I can't say unless you tell me which one is which.
He might be the second one, the one with less assists. I don't picture him as getting a lot of assists. So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the second one is Will Barton.
You actually got that? Are you kidding me?
That was a psychological.
On the first try? What the fuck?
Play the mind games.
Play the mind. But who's the other one? The other one, he's also not starting at the moment, but he may have before.
Thomas.
Thomas, no, he actually went from the bench to the starting job when Smart.
Yeah, Smart got injured. Yeah.
Who gets 1.2 blocks?
1.2. That's pretty sexy.
That's
and
pretty
4
good.
dimes. Yeah.
Also a shooting guard, like Will Barton.
Who doesn't?
Coming off the bench.
Ginobili! No, I don't know.
Not
Man, probably not.
I want to stab at this, but I think it's Wednesday.
It's someone we mentioned in the last few minutes too, while we were talking about one of the most dropped players.
I'm gonna pull up your email.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
J.R. Smith.
Not J.R. Smith. I don't think he would be one of the most dropped if he were doing that. No, it's Victor Oladipo.
Ooh.
I forgot he was back. He was on the bench.
Yeah.
He's a starter level player. I don't think about him like a bench player.
Right, yeah, certainly, yeah, we were expecting a lot more out of Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo is a player I would have loved to have. It wasn't going to work out where I was drafting. I was probably never going to get him unless I wanted to take him at pick 23, but he's been kind of, I mean, those are decent stats. I mean, 1 block from your shooting guard's real nice. 15,
1-1-1.
15, 5, and 4 is pretty good. Yeah, and he's almost a 1-1-1 player. In that period of time, not quite, but close enough for horseshoes. But certainly we're expecting. I mean, there was a lot of hype around Victor Oladipo. I was hearing people saying to take him in the second round. He's going to average 20 points. He's going to shoot the lights out. He's going to start hitting 2 threes a game. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite worked out, and I don't see that happening when he's coming off the bench. I mean, the minutes are still there. He's still getting enough minutes to produce, but
Yeah, was he like a 4th round pick in our league? And I think generally he was around the 4th round, right?
He was picked around pick 30 in our league, right around there. So like right around the turn from the 3rd to the 4th.
Wow.
But he's still we'd have to double check to see exactly where he is on the player rate. I think the percentages are keeping him down. I don't think he's in. Yeah, he's not in the top 50 at the moment. Where is he? Where are you, Victor Oladipo?
He's at 80.
80. So part of that is the percentages. I think he's still turning a ball
Next to
over.
Jordan Clarkson.
Hey, no,
That's an insult, isn't it? Jordan Clarkson's playing pretty well.
Jordan Clarkson is
Alright, well,
Yeah, I mean,
mostly all he does is score, but he does that quite a bit. Jordan Clarkson is averaging 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.4 threes.
wait, since we're on the topic of Jordan Clarkson, can we talk about what is going on with the Kobe trend lately? He is playing less minutes, and he is passing the ball. What is going on? I had a great game out of him just yesterday, I think. Like 26 points, 6 assists. Like, what?
That's a good point.
Is that a glitch?
And his field goal percentage is pretty good, too.
Yeah.
He shot 9 of 16, but look at who was he going up against yesterday?
It doesn't matter.
It kind
Your
of
boy
matters.
James Harden.
He was going up against James Harden, so take the 9 of 16 with a grain of salt.
Well, let me tell you, it's the impact is so much seen that I won in field goal against Brian Lynch's team, and I have a team with Melo and Kobe. I mean, I don't need to go any further. All right, what does that say? That means Kobe did not murder me this week. I'm telling you, change is coming. Change is coming.
why do you have a player on your team where you go, he didn't murder me this week, and that's like a beneficial thing? Like that shouldn't be a thing you say about someone on your team. They should be dropped then.
Kobe Bryant. Am I gonna drop a legend name? Who am I gonna pick up?
Oh my
748?
gosh.
No.
Well, that's precisely it. I think if you're punting field goal percentage, and you just don't really care what the field goal percentage is, you just ignore that. And when you look at it that way, Kobe is averaging 16 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.7 steals, or 1.7 threes, with 1 steal. So there's that. And that's just the weird thing about percentages. Tommy, as he mentioned, defeated Brian Lynch this week. Tommy has a team that includes Kemba Walker, Carmelo Anthony, Darren Williams, Alec Burks, C.J. Miles, and Kobe Bryant. whereas Brian Lynch has Kawhi Leonard, Al Horford, DeAndre Jordan, Brooke Lopez, and Dirk Nowitzki. And yet Tommy won the field goal percentage category this week. Go figure.
Wow.
But yeah, that's enough fantasy basketball for now. We'll kick it around the whole league. Tommy, Daniel, and myself, and the aforementioned Brian Lynch, who's not currently with us, we're lucky enough to catch the Bulls live and in person on Monday and lose kind of a heartbreaker to the Phoenix Suns. So we actually got to see these players we've been talking about live and in person. Alex Len, he is super lanky. Mirza Teletovic, he is extremely hateable. You just see his face, and you just want to punch him. Extremely punchable things. Every time there was a free throw, he was kicking the guy next to him and leaving early to go for the rebound. And on the last play, I know we're biased, we're Bulls fans, but on the last play where he hit that game-winning floater, he pushed off Derrick Rose, who fell on his stupid face. He pushed Derrick Rose on his face, which really sucks given that his face hurts and he has to wear a mask all the time already. But he pushed off Derrick Rose to grab the rebound that allowed him to hit that game-winning floater. So we were all just kind of mad after that Bulls game, but now that we've had a little time to cool
We
off.
also lost a Big Mac.
And we lost a Big Mac. They scored
Wow.
but they didn't win, so we didn't get a Big Mac. But
Huge.
yeah, that was kind of an infuriating game. So if you guys don't want to talk about it, that's okay. But if you do, what do you think? It's fun. It's still fun to see live basketball, right?
I saw an interesting video the other day on NBA Game Time or something. You know how we were talking about in the Bulls arena, if the guy misses 2 free throws at the fourth quarter, you get a free Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I guess during the Knicks-Utah game a couple of days back, Vucevic, what's his name? That shooting guard with the long hair, the New York Knicks. What's his name? Vucevic, yeah, or whatever his name is. He ended up at the free throw line twice on the fourth quarter, and both times he missed the first free throw, so everybody was cheering for the free Chick-fil-A. Both times he hit the second one, and he went shush to the crowd.
Oh, what a
Absolutely hilarious. Funniest thing I've seen so far.
Bastard.
I know, what an ass.
Yeah, Sasha Vujacic back in the league, taking minutes away from Langston Galloway.
But enough about food, more about the Bulls' actual performance. Of late, they got a good win against New Orleans, but I don't know. I've been very skeptical with this Bulls team. They're 13-8, which is a solid record, enough for third place in the East. But one thing I was looking at that kind of took me by surprise was their point differential is only they're only plus 0.6, so they're not even a point ahead in point differential, which is kind of bad. There's no other team in the East that's in the top 8. They have the lowest point differential out of all the 8 playoff teams in the East right now. And they normally say point differential is a pretty good indicator, because, sometimes you win or lose close games. But when you have a point differential like that, it's kind of a little bit alarming. You have teams like the Celtics that are almost a point differential 4.9, the Raptors 4.5, Cleveland 5.4. And then I don't even want to bring up the powerhouses like the Warriors that are plus 13.1 and the Spurs at 12.2. But it's just, the Bulls are practically breaking even over the first 20 games of the season. Their defense has been questionable, as we witnessed during the Suns game this week, where they blew a, I think, 16 or 18-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was 16 points. Yeah,
definitely concerning. It's still early in the season, but I don't know. I think they've lost their defensive identity, and they don't seem to quite have the offense to make up for it. So it's alarming.
Yeah, go ahead, Nate. Yeah.
When I watch them, it's kind of like they have an offensive line and they have a defensive line, as if they're like a football team. Like when the offensive line's there, they're like jacking threes everywhere, and they have a lot of I don't know. They have a lot of opportunities, a lot of different ways to score. But then there's such a liability on defense that eventually they have to bring out the defensive lineup to stop the other team from scoring, which is like includes Noah and includes Taj, and whatever. And then that switch back and forth just means they're either not scoring or they're scoring and letting the other team score way too much or score more than them, which is probably why the point differential is all whack. I think their like starting five lineup is pretty solid and can actually do some damage, but you can't have that five out there forever. So Hoiberg has to have a secondary unit that has some kind of mix and match of offensive and defensive, so it's not so much liabilities everywhere.
And I believe we saw Taj start over Mirotic in this most recent game, correct?
Yeah.
Is that the mix we need to do? We need someone who can guard somebody, and we need a big guy who can go get a bucket, and maybe that's the hedge we need to make, the trade-off they need to make. And they still only beat the lowly Pelicans by 4. But yeah, but Pau Gasol's defense is really a problem. We've been hearing about this for a while, but it was totally another thing to see it live. The Bulls were leading by 16 points going into the fourth quarter, and as much as I want to blame Mirza Teletovic cheating, I mean the Bulls have nobody to blame but themselves for losing this game. Eric Bledsoe was just getting past Pau Gasol every time in the fourth quarter. Brandon Knight must have shot I don't remember exactly, but he shot a ton of free throws in the fourth quarter. We couldn't stop either of these guys. Yeah, it all comes down to Pau Gasol if he's going to be on the floor in the fourth.
Yeah, I thought Brandon Knight was having his way with Jimmy Butler, and that was kind of unfortunate because I was thinking Jimmy Butler was one of our better defenders. And during that stretch, it was Jimmy Butler that was guarding Brandon Knight, and Jimmy wasn't able to get any stops, and that was took me by surprise actually. I expected somebody like Derrick Rose to be getting beat, but not Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, he committed a lot of fouls. I remember he committed 4 fouls in that game, and probably Brandon Knight has a lot to do with that. Brandon Knight's been kind of a nice surprise this year. I mean, he was a nice surprise last year, but the fact that he's kept it up is kind of not surprising anymore. But I wasn't expecting him to be this good forever. I thought he was gonna fall back. I didn't believe in him, but I am starting to be a believer.
I need to see some stats with Joakim on the floor and Joakim off the floor. Honestly, I think Joakim is playing good basketball, and they're not giving him any minutes. The moment he's doing well, he's on a roll, he gets pulled, and he's back on the bench. Here comes Powell with a terrible D. I mean, I know Joakim is shot, and I know he's old, and he's not his old self, but honestly, I think the ball kind of presses on both ends. The defense is there. God knows we all get terrified every time he dribbles up the court with the basketball. But turnovers from those are far and few, Only sometimes he makes irrational decisions, but I think he's good to be on the floor, and I think this offense completely just kind of kicking him out. And I would really like to see him get a little bit more minutes and play throughout it. So, but I don't think that's going to happen. So,
I agree. I think the rumors of Joakim Noah's death have been greatly exaggerated. The on-off stats are a little. I could probably pull that up, but what I have in front of me are his per 36 numbers. His per 36 rebounding numbers are actually higher than they've ever been in his entire career. He's at 14.1 rebounds per 36. The highest he ever was at before that was 13.2 way back in 2010. The last couple of years he's been around 11. He's all the way up to 14. The assists are as high as ever per 36, 5.7. Last year it was at 5.5, so pretty much the same, but not dropping off. The blocks are the per 36 blocks are 1.9. That's not a career high, but that's the highest they've been since 2013. And it's really just the scoring. I mean, but go figure, you weren't really counting on Noah to get you a bunch of buckets. He's only scoring 6 points per 36, which, yes, that is pretty terrible. But if you put him out there with some other guys who can score, I don't know, Butler, Mirotic, and our favorite new toy, Dougie McBuckets, maybe good things will happen.
Gross.
Toy.
Dougie, he's doing, he's not killing it exactly, but he's a functional off the bench 3-point guy at least, right? That's not the highest praise, but I mean, I'm not blaming Dougie McBuckets for the Bulls' issues. So.
Well, in regards to the Bulls, let me pose this question. One of my coworkers last year, a huge fan of the Bulls, he stated that Mirotic, who was playing really good basketball last year, showed really good signs. We should have used that as bait to trade him away and get a better player because he predicted in the long run he's not going to end up being the player that everybody imagined he'd be. So what are your thoughts on that? Do we buy or sell on Mirotic, stick with him, write him out, or what are we doing with him?
I think it's easy to look at Mirotic and because of all his experience playing Euro basketball, to not treat him as a young kind of rookie-like player. I mean, like his transition to the NBA was pretty good, especially compared to other players. But he still has a lot to learn. I mean, if you watch him, he just has these very silly mistakes sometimes, where like people will get by him so easily, not because he doesn't have the ability to defend them, but because in some sense he doesn't know how to, and he's not ready for a lot of these moves he sees. And he's actually upping his rebounds recently, on top of the fact that he's always a three-point threat. I think with a little bit more NBA experience, which usually the Bulls is pretty good. The Bulls has been very good about grooming new players who are just like nobodies, i.e., good old Jimmy Butler here, making them all.
Let's say hi to the bobblehead, everybody.
Jimmy Butler, bobblehead. Look at that. Love him. But yeah, I'd say I would not, as a franchise, sell on him yet. I think another year and he could be very good.
I mean, I agree with Nate. It's hard to sell on Nikola yet, but at the same time, the Bulls are gonna they need to cut one of their bigs loose because they have so much talent. Like you have Powell, you have Mirotic, you have Taj Gibson, Noah, and then you have Bobby Portis, which is pretty good. But has he played this year at all?
No.
Yes,
barely.
Yes, he has played.
Oh yeah. Oh, that one
He's
game.
got yeah.
Oh well, I mean,
Literally yes, but in a practical sense.
I mean, there you have like a guy that I think Bobby Portis has some potential and is not going to really see any significant minutes this year. And then you have these other four big men who are sharing minutes. They're not really getting too many minutes. I almost feel like they need to kind of trade, maybe consolidate some of this depth to try and get a little more, I mean, a bigger name player. I mean, maybe somebody that's better. What we do in fantasy basketball. If you can trade two average players for a good player, you gotta sometimes do it.
The convenient thing is that we don't have to make the salaries match in fantasy. At least not in our league. But we're gonna wish the Bulls the best in their dinner. I do think they need to move one of those four bigs, and that's probably gonna end up being Taj. I think he's the most logical one. He's also probably the least. Noah's value is not great right now, but I think his production's a little underrated. Like I mentioned, his per 36 numbers are up. It's just that he's not getting the minutes. So, but either him or Taj, they're probably the least valuable in a trade. So unfortunately, you probably wouldn't get that much back for just trading Taj, but it might be worth it just to free it up to get more minutes to Noah and Portis.
But we could throw in D Rose in a package.
Oh yeah, shit them.
And his $27-some million.
Ship him in his Bane mask.
Throw in the mask for free, just in case.
Oh, you got to throw in probably a couple replacement masks. They keep falling over and breaking them, or leaving them in the locker room. That was kind of funny. He just forgot his mask the other day, and then just
that's why he didn't have
halftime.
it?
Yeah.
He just plain forgot it. Anyway, but let's kick it around the rest of the league. The two teams I was interested in mainly talking about are at opposite ends of the spectrum: the 76ers and the Golden State Warriors. Let's start with the Golden State Warriors, actually. Now, when we were originally planning this podcast, I was going to look at their schedule and try to say, okay, when's the next time the Warriors are going to lose? Then later that same night, Saturday, they actually did lose to the Bucks, which maybe we should have seen coming, since it was the second night of a back-to-back, after which they had just played double overtime. But with that in mind, we can still try to play the same. When are they going to lose again? So they have the Cavs on Christmas Day. That's probably the best team they're playing. Well, it's certainly the best team they're playing in the near future. Do you think the Warriors are going to take it to them, or are they going to get it taken to themselves?
Will Kyrie be back by then?
I think there's a decent chance he is, but I don't think it's for sure.
It don't matter. Warriors are going to win. I mean, if you guys haven't noticed a pattern, some of the closest losses have been to pretty mediocre teams. It almost seems like the only way the Warriors lose is if they lose to themselves. If they come out kind of lazy, or they're like, oh, this is going to be an easy W. But if you look at some of their other games, like against Memphis, or like they were talking a lot about Indiana, those games were over by halftime. When the Warriors really want to play and take it seriously, man, they're a hard team to beat. I mean, that's what I think.
So you would be inclined to think that the next time they lose, it's going to be like a random back-to-back in Denver, or...
No, not Denver. Come on now. Come on.
Well, Denver's always tough to play back-to-backs because of the altitude, even if the team is not that great.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they're more susceptible to lose those games than like this Christmas game where they know all the cameras, a nationally televised game against Cleveland, a finals rematch. I'm pretty sure, well, Cleveland has good talent. I'm pretty sure the Warriors are going to be very focused on that game versus like what happened in Milwaukee. Even against, it was like, people thought that was going to be like, even though it was a back-to-back, Milwaukee wasn't scaring anybody this year. And they kind of came out, they weren't really focused, fell behind, and couldn't do one of their miracle comebacks. Yeah. So I think sometimes you got to look at not just the best team on the schedule, but just look at when the Warriors are probably going to be a little tired or just kind of relaxed.
So their next 5 games are Phoenix, Milwaukee again, this time at home, the Jazz at home, the Cavs, and the Sacramento Kings. So other than the Cavs, which one of those do you think is the most likely to be the downfall? Do you think the Bucks just have the Warriors' number?
Bucks are going to get destroyed. That's just a prediction. They are going to get destroyed that game.
You think the Warriors are mad at the Bucks and they're going to punish them? Yeah.
Can I just say one thing? I'm just going to say, damn it, you can't see the picture? Tilt it. King James!
Get that porn out of here. What is that?
So tell me, you disagree? You think the Cavaliers have a good shot against the Warriors?
I do, and I'm gonna go on record to say it. Healthy Cleveland, I'm gonna naturally go ahead and assume the 2 teams that I expect to be in the finals: Warriors versus Cleveland. Cleveland healthy with Kyrie, K. Love, I'm gonna say it now, will beat the Warriors. If they don't, holy crap, LeBron, man, I don't know what to tell you, bro. LeBron has everything to win it. He's got the mindset. Healthy Cleveland against the Warriors. Cleveland in 7. I'm calling it. But yes, I'm
glad we got that on the record.
Please do. All the news says Kyrie will be back by Christmas Day. He's also traveling with the team. I think he's practicing, so he should be back by Christmas Day. It's a big-time game. He'll definitely be there. And honestly, are they going to beat him Christmas Day? I'm going to say yes, but there's also a good chance that they lose. I believe it's a Warriors home game, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's a chance that they lose and Kyrie might be rusty and things like that. But in the long run, I think Cleveland is going to be the real threat. I'm going to naturally assume at this point, even though Spurs quietly have a great record and they're doing well and Daniel's smirking over there, that Warriors are going to go through them. If it doesn't happen in 5, it's going to be in 6. It's not going to go to 7. Ginobili's not the same person. Parker's not the same person. Timmy's doing really well, but it's just not enough. Kawhi's at a whole different level. Aldridge is there. In the next coming years, they might be good. But Warriors are going to get to the Western Conference Finals, and they will meet Cleveland Cavaliers because, let's be real, just because the Bucks beat the Warriors, they're not a real threat to anybody.
But Daniel, you brought up an interesting stat before. You said the Warriors had a point differential of 13.4, and I believe you said the Spurs had a differential of 12, which is not that far off. Did I have that right? Or
Yes, they are actually, I think, like 1 point apart. The Spurs are kind of sneaking by there.
yeah, I mean, we talk about the Warriors just absolutely destroying everybody, but the Spurs seem to be destroying a lot of people too. So I would expect if they played each other, whether in the regular season or perhaps some playoff series, it would be quite a fight.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
in the playoffs, but you know Pop is going to hide his little antics. If he found a way to slow Steph Curry down, he's not going to bring it out in the regular season.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, right. Regardless of like that, but let's just assume for the sake of the argument they meet in a playoff series. How do you think that shakes out?
I think those are the two best teams in the league, and I think that's going to be the conference finals matchup. I mean, I'm very biased. I like to think my Spurs are going to win, but I think it's a coin flip, and then whoever wins that should win the title. I mean, Cleveland's good, but I mean, come on, it's San Antonio or Golden State, no doubt.
I think that recent loss by GSW, I think, proved an important point that they are a human team. I think they've been playing like an inhuman team, but they too can get tired and they can play worse when they're tired. And in all honesty, aren't they leading the league still on possessions with their crazy possessions per, what is it?
You mean pace?
Yeah, basically leading the league in pace.
Per game.
Yeah, possessions. Yeah, basically possessions per game. I mean, that run and gun offense, even with a fantastic and young team, it's going to wear them down. I mean, they're going to have to at least take some losses in the middle of the stretch. Otherwise, they're going to have to fear, getting exhausted for the playoffs. So this production's amazing, but I don't think it's sustainable, especially with that pace.
So the Warriors, a possible chink in the armor of the vaunted Warriors. We'll turn our attention now to the other end of the spectrum, the Philadelphia 76ers. So, in the past week, they hired Jerry Colangelo to be the chairman of basketball operations. So Sam Hinkie, we're told, still has the final say on all personnel decisions. However, you have to imagine that Jerry Colangelo is going to influence many of those. And they also hired Mike D'Antoni as a assistant coach, presumably as an offensive assistant primarily. So, what do you guys think about the whole Philadelphia plan? Were you on board from the start? Are you still on board with the process, and does what happened this week change your opinion of what's going on there? Tommy?
Oh, is it starting with me? Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Honestly, look, I think they're trying to work the system. They've been trying to work the system for a couple of years now. They did a good job. They got a couple of good draft picks. Unfortunately, they all been hurt. But that one guy, I'm drawing a blank. What's the big man that they picked up before Jahlil Okafor?
Embiid, Joel Embiid.
Yeah, Joel Embiid. He's a great player. I think, if he can get on the court and not get injured, I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. So I think they got some pieces there. What it will look like in the long run, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they have a game plan. But they've been working the system for 3 years. They were trying to sneak under the radar and get by until somebody said something, and now they did. People got involved. Now they're trying to kind of cover it up by hiring some people, and the right people. They hired some really good talents there. I think, honestly, they're bad enough that they will get a top-tier pick this year. So that's good. So it worked well for them now consistently, 4 or 5 years, whatever. So they are holding on to some good assets in the long run. So, give them 5 years. They actually might be really good. And, we just didn't see it coming. We all make fun of them right now being horrible and atrocious and losing by the biggest point margin to the Spurs. Of course, that's because the Spurs are that great, Daniel. So I think they got something. They got something in their mind, and I think they're doing the right thing. So, props to them. They're working the system, and they're winning on that. In the long run, I think that franchise will be pretty solid.
What about you, Danny? Is the process still working? Do you think? Tommy kind of alluded to this is a kind of window dressing. They're still gonna do their thing tank wise.
Well,
Do
I
you think
think
that's
this
the case? Do
year
you think Colangelo's gonna crack some skulls?
Well, I think this year with this kind of record, what's their record? 1 in like
I think they're
22.
1-21 last I checked.
So
Something
right
They
now,
beat the Lakers.
one win. They lost today, so.
so I mean, at least for this year, I mean, I don't think it makes sense to kind of go in and kind of rehaul things. I mean, just go. I mean, you already got off to such a bad start. Might as well just get another high pick. I think at the end of the day, I mean, the NBA, the other owners kind of shot themselves in the foot because I think a couple years ago there were talks about do they want to address this tanking issue. I mean, do you want to change the lottery so that the worst teams don't have the best odds? And the other owners kind of shot it down, and we have this exact same system, which seems to reward teams like the 76ers. And so now the other owners are upset because the Sixers are so terrible that they're hurting revenue because, I mean, nobody wants to watch them, both live or on TV. And
Besides Lynn.
besides Lynn, who has a fantasy player in that team. But any rational human being would not want to watch them. And so I guess the owners have a dilemma. Right now they're saying they don't want a team like the Sixers, but then when it comes to actually revamping the system, why don't you change it? Why do you reward teams like the Sixers? Owners are going to have to figure it out, and eventually I hope they overhaul the system at least so that it doesn't encourage teams to do things like this.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Yeah, the other owners don't like it if the Sixers are tanking, but the Sixers probably themselves are probably starting financially to feel the effects of tanking. I think I looked at it earlier, but obviously attendance is down, and that's the price you pay if you want to get a high draft pick. That's fine, but
there's revenue sharing though, isn't there? So like, are the Sixers really suffering that much, or are the other teams just gonna end up writing them a check for being so terrible?
Check.
I still think on a game-to-game basis they make more money the more attendance they have. I think the revenue sharing still functions more on the TV scale. If I'm not
Well,
mistaken.
revenue is down. Their expenses are also down. I mean, are they gonna like hit the salary floor again? Like last year, they were pretty close to like hitting the salary floor, which is like a threshold in which you have to pay at least this much. And I mean, I heard they're below that level again this year, which means they'll have to just write every player on their team an extra check just to meet that minimum threshold. They're pretty sad.
Exactly. Presumably the idea is to give yourself more cap space so when you're ready to compete you can sign somebody, but you have to wonder whether the long-term rebuilding is going to have an effect on free agents wanting to sign there. I mean, we just saw this past offseason two historic franchises, the New York Knicks and the Los Angeles Lakers, strike out big time in free agency trying to attract the likes of LaMarcus Aldridge and some of the higher tier free agents. I mean, the Knicks ended up with Robin Lopez and Aaron Aflalo. The Lakers, I mean, they traded for Roy Hibbert, so that's not really a free agent. I think their big free agent would have been Lou Williams. So even if you have a historic city, a historic franchise, you might have trouble attracting a free agent if the team around them is crap. So, and the Sixers don't even have the cachet of the Lakers, so you have to wonder if that's going to be an issue.
And then one thing for the Sixers, so recently they've been drafting a lot of bigs. I think their three prominent draft picks have been Noel, Embiid, and now Jahlil Okafor. I mean, don't the three of them play like the same position, essentially, power forward and center? So one of them's got to go, right?
You'd have to think so. Joel Embiid at least can shoot. So, but you're not exactly playing him at the 3 next to Okafor and Noel at the 5 and 4. But I don't mind that as much. I think when you're picking that high in the draft, you kind of gotta pick the best player available and just see who works out. And I do think they did that so far. I think Embiid is definitely the best player available in terms of talent. Obviously, he's hurt, so we'll see whether that turns into anything. But
Maybe they're just, I don't know, maybe they're behind the trend of small ball. I don't know why they keep drafting all these bigs. I mean, Joel Embiid, for God's sake, if that man runs half the speed as any of the stretch forwards or the centers they play, he's going to break another foot again. It's ridiculous. It's got to be trade bait. I don't know. I mean, there's like 3 big-time top-tier draft picks that they drafted 3 years in a row. I mean, one is going to pan out. Jahlil Okafor, I think, is the one. That guy actually might be good. But
Once he gets out of fights.
yeah, well, that might never happen.
maybe it's the fights that give him the energy to play on the court. Maybe he has to go out and fight somebody so he can drop 20 and 10. I don't know. If I were an NBA player, I might try that strategy. You got to do something to get yourself up. But we will definitely see. Any final thoughts around the league in general or about fantasy basketball before we sign off for the evening?
I think not.
No, really, no.
Go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs. That's right. Unfortunately, the Spurs have a 3-game week this week, so all the Kawhi and the LaMarcus and the Danny Green owners, if there are any left, are going to be hurting there. But
Yeah, Spurs players still hard to own. That has not changed in fantasy, man.
Well, it depends on the. Yeah, you're right. Kawhi rested a game recently, and the stated reason was gastroenteritis, which is, that's kind of hard to prove. It's not like, he hurt his ankle in a game. Oh, we all saw the play where he hurt his ankle. You don't get gastroenteritis in a game. You don't really get it in a place where people are going to see you. In fact, if you have that, you're probably in the bathroom. So it's hard to say whether that's the case or not. But I think Kawhi is kind of beyond that threshold. Like Tim Duncan in his prime, he wasn't resting random games. I mean, he was playing like 80 games this season when he was healthy. I think Kawhi is pretty much past the threshold where he's going to rest a lot of random games. Maybe we'll see that change later in the year, but I think if you own Kawhi, you're holding him and enjoying the ride. But anything else before we sign off?
No, it looks like Nate already left, so.
Sasha missed 2 free throws, so people can get Chick-fil-A, man. Come on.
Yeah, I didn't realize apparently they have that promotion in other arenas. I didn't really know about it at all until I went to that Bulls game. And then I did hear that they have, that was Utah.
That was Utah, yeah.
Where they have it. So presumably they have it in other places as well. That's a solid promotion. I mean, Chick-fil-A, as a, just talking about the sandwich, nothing else. It's a nice sandwich.
Good chicken sandwich. No complaints.
So yeah, we'll be rooting for random road players to miss 2 consecutive free throws around the league. Good luck to everybody with that promotion, and good luck with your fantasy leagues. This has been the Chi-Town Fantasy Basketball Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Later.